Hello, we are now live. So good afternoon and welcome everyone to the LMS Lounge. Joining us today is Phil Fraser. And Phil, I will hand you over to you for you to introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, good afternoon everybody. My name is Phil Fraser. I am a business sounding board. I work with small and medium-sized businesses with the owner of the business to be exactly that, to be a sounding board. You know, we all know the cliche, it's lonely at the top. I'm there really as a spare pair of ears, an extra pair of eyes, just to help them along their journey. You know, it's often the case that just by vocalizing and verbalizing things, it sort of comes to a solution. So I offer myself as that. The reason I can do that, and I can do that with experience, is I've run my own business. I went from kitchen table startup to a multi-million-pound sale to a PLC in 18 years. So I think we're going to touch on that during this talk, but that's me.
So as a sounding board, do you find that there's particular areas that people sort of need your assistance with, or is it anything and everything?
It tends to be everything and anything. You know, in certain instances, it is something like, you know, I've got this idea. Can you just listen to me and we'll talk through it and you know, see if it sounds good or is this really stupid? Or it might be something like, I've got 2 or 3 ideas. You know, let's just sort of, again, sounding board it, bounce it around. What's good, what's bad? You know, almost do like a mini SWOT on it. And other times, I've got clients who are owners of big businesses who would just say, Phil, I'm thinking of doing this. Is it okay? Am I allowed to do this?
Almost like that verification from someone else.
Yes, some of it's verification, it's validation. The other side of it, which I found fascinating, and as people who have started businesses and grown them, as they grow, they start losing and delegating jobs. So they bring in to do this job or that job or whatever the job is. And what happens after a while is they end up with a sort of what's left. And some of what's left is stuff obviously they should be doing.
Yeah.
And some of it's what's left is stuff they've either chosen not to let go of or still got. And it's interesting, and I had this with a client recently who was telling me what she was doing, and I said, whoa. I sort of read back to her what she'd said. And I said, if you employed a managing director and they were doing that and they came back and told you they were doing that, what would you say?
Yeah.
She went, oh my God. And it happened. And I you know, and this is one of the reasons why I think I can help a lot of businesses, is because I've been there and done it. And I've been in the same situation, you know, sort of 5 years out from selling the business, I was still the one buying the stationery and the toilet rolls.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So it's everything. It's everything that comes in that package of running a business. And just it's hand holding, it's being an ear, it's just being a download, and it's being advice as well. So yeah, it's the full gamut of the whole thing.
And I think that's so invaluable, because I know I briefly said in my message to you that I'd worked for an SME, and you know, they were a startup initially with the 4 founders who were friends, had left one business to set up their own guitar amp company, and they decided on who was going to be the MD, who was focusing on sales and marketing and stuff, but the letting go and the nitty gritty of stuff, they just really struggled. Well, some of them really struggled with it because it was their baby, and I don't think it matters what size business you are, whether you are on your own and you are looking to grow, progress. If you're still taking care and really focusing on those bits which actually don't have a massive impact overall, it's all about assessing where best your time is best spent, isn't it, and what's going to add most value to your business.
Absolutely, and this is the key. And you know, you start as a startup and you do everything, and then at some point you have to evaluate the opportunity cost of the time and the value of what you're doing. So for example, again, quite a long way into the process, I was still doing the invoicing and the credit control and chasing money and stuff like that. And at that point, we had a successful business. I was taking out a nice salary in terms of, salary and dividends. Yeah. And then somebody said to me, would you pay bookkeeper what you pay yourself to do that job? And I've got,
absolutely.
I wouldn't do that. And they go, well, ta-da,
Yeah.
And that letting go, part of it is just not seeing the benefit of letting go. Part of it is not wanting to let go. This is my baby. Nobody can do this task as well as I can do it.
Yeah.
Nobody can care for it as much as I care for it. And some of it is down to things like delegation, which I think is an underused facility, and also an undertrained and understood.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That you have to. Not only, I always said I would never delegate something to somebody who wasn't trained to do it, because it's not fair, and you can't. On one level, it's not fair on the person anyway, but on the other level, you're not going to get the job done to the right quality. So if you say, right, I'm going to delegate this task, it's not just a case of, I don't want to do it here, you have it. It's actually, okay, this is the task. This is what's expected of you. If you need training on how to do it, this is how, we can, if it's technical, we can send you on a training course, whatever it might be. If you've got any questions, come and ask me, and this is the standard and the time and all that sort of thing. And I always said to somebody, we're at A, we need to get to B, whatever that task is A to B. I might go this direction, but if you go that direction, it doesn't matter, because I just want you to get to B.
Yeah.
And that is, again, it's one of those skills that you pick up as you're growing your business. There's lots of reasons why people do not let go of stuff. And I was actually talking to somebody this morning who's a magazine publisher who was driving from Leeds to Manchester to drop off boxes of magazines. Now, he owns the business. And I said, well, you can get pay somebody 50 quid to do that, and you've got 3 hours spare to do other stuff. Oh, well, I'll make sure they get there, and I need to speak to the guy when I drop them off. He's like, for God's sake. It's, that's a live example from this morning. But you need somebody on the outside looking in just to be able to tell you that. And that's where this sounding board concept comes from.
Absolutely. And as you say, just delegating and making those decisions is such a game changer for your business, because as you rightly said, if you look at how much I've sometimes shared on LinkedIn, for example, if you're spending X amount of time doing something, how much of that time, okay, you might not necessarily be charging someone for that time, but if you could get someone else and pay them considerably less than what your hourly rate is, well, you've got to weigh it up, don't you? You've got to think about, okay, where should I be spending my time? What should I be focusing on? Should I really be doing some of those more basic tasks, or the stuff I don't really understand? Or should I be thinking about the growth of my business? And welcome, Matt. Can we actually hear you now? Hi.
It works. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Matt.
So we've also got a few people watching. So we've got Sarah, we've got someone else, and we have Tracy. So hello to everybody. So
we have it's Tracy, Alison, and Sarah.
Awesome. You can see them.
I have it on Facebook.
So you have something called the FFS. What is that?
I can think.
This is, as it says there, the Fraser 5-step. This is actually a very I think it's quite a simple business strategy planning tool that, as the name suggests, has 5 steps.
Yeah.
Whilst it has my name on it, I can't claim that it is unique. This is just an accumulation of lots of stuff I've done over lots and lots of time, and I think it works really, really well as a system. So if I just talk you through it very, very simply, then if you've got any questions, ask, or if any of our audience have got any questions, please ask. So I start this strategy with a simple question. And that simple question is, what does perfect look like in 12 months' time? Okay?
Yeah.
Now, a couple of things to bear in mind of this. That time period can be anything. I mean, obviously at the moment, everybody's looking pretty short term. You know, what does perfect look like in a month? I'm still in business, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect. But let's assume COVID hasn't happened or we're out of COVID. So what does perfect look like in a year's time? And the answer to that question, A, should be quite simple out of your head, because it's the thing to focus on is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. No excuses. No. Yeah. But well, just a very, very simple question and very, very simple, straightforward answer. What does perfect look like in a year's time? Now, that might be something like we need to get to £1 million worth of sales, or I want to launch a new product for our product, or it might be I want to sell the business, or it might be I want to acquire another business to plug into mine. And the thing about that is that what this does is this then leads into step 2, because once you've determined what it is you want to do, we'll then determine how you try and deliver that.
Yeah.
So let's just take a couple of examples I mentioned there. So and we'll sort of think big picture, because I think it makes it easier to explain this. So if one hand you say I want to buy a business, on the other hand you want to sell a business, okay, they will set you off on completely different strategic tracks. So if I want to sell my business, you know, I need to do things like, well, I need to tidy things up, I need to make sure I've got my contracts in place, have all my staff got contracts, you'd start chasing money and make sure there's no outstanding debts. You know, have I got an issue with the office lease? All those sorts of things need to be in place. They need to go out and find you know, somebody to sell a business, etc., etc., etc. So that's on one hand.
Yeah.
If you want to, and also you might start cutting costs so the business looks really sexy. Conversely, if you say I want to buy a business, you go, right, okay, what do we want to do now? Well, actually, we'll need a bit of a pot of money to buy a competitor. So we might cut back on marketing, or we might, you know, we might have a sale and try and generate lots and lots of money. So just by answering one question, and there's 2 examples, you've got completely divergent strategies anyway. So the first question, what does perfect look like in a year's time? Step 2, as it says there, is your strategy. So what needs to be in place, very, very top level, what needs to be in place to be able to deliver that?
Yeah.
And your strategy will only be maybe 2 or 3 lines. We're not talking specifics, we're just talking general strategy. So go back to my examples. We want to get £1 million worth of sales. Okay, what's our strategy going to be? Well, our strategy is going to be increase our sales volume, increase our profit per sale. And by putting those 2 strategic things in place, we're hoping they will deliver our strategy, our mission, our objective of £1 million worth of sales.
Yeah.
Go back to the example of we want to sell a business. The strategy will be, it's a very simple strategy, prepare the business to be sellable. That's it. That's one line. That's your strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the next level is so step 3 is tactics. So what do you actually need to do? And again, this is pretty top level still. So what tactics do you need to put in place to be able to deliver that strategy? Now, if you've got a couple of things in your strategy, they will deliver, well, what will fall out of there is maybe 3 or 4 tactics for each strategy. So again, let's go back to our £1 million worth of sales. £1 million worth of sales, we've said we want to, we need to increase sales volume, we need to increase profit per share. Okay, so we need to increase volume. What tactics would we put in place to do that? We might recruit a new sales manager. We might change the pricing structure. We might research competitive pricing.
Yeah.
They become your tactics. Your, again, pretty top line tactics as to what you want to do. Again, using the example of selling your business. So you go, okay, you know, what are the main strategy, the main tactics we need are we need to speak to some sales brokers. We need to start understanding the M&A market, prices. We need to start, as I mentioned before, reviewing contracts, getting a lot of paper in place. There are tactics. again, this is very sort of pyramid-like, because everything just drops out of the next thing. So from our tactics, we've actually getting down to actions. At this point, we now start making a list of stuff that needs doing. Okay, so following our we'll follow our first example of we need £1 million worth of sales. That's our dream situation in a year's time. We've decided our strategy is increasing sales volume and increasing profit per sales. Within that, or from that, we've decided our tactics are, we're definitely going to recruit a new sales manager, we're going to change our pricing structure, and we're going to research the competition. Okay, they're our tactics. So our actions now become, okay, and again, each one of those delivers a series of actions. So recruiting our sales manager, somebody's got to write a job description, somebody's got to put an ad together, somebody's then got to contact, I know, Indeed.com to put an ad out, somebody might speak to some local recruitment consultants, we need to think about who's going to do the interviews, all those sorts of things. So just from one strategic thing delivers a number of tactical things, which delivers a series of actions. And again, we'll go back to we want to sell a business, so we need to prepare the business to be sellable. So who's responsible? We said we're going to review contracts, and we're going to review our reporting systems, and we're going to speak to sales brokers. So who's going to speak to the sales brokers? Who's going to find the sales brokers? What they're going to say? Who they're going to report back to once they've done that review? Who's responsible for collecting up all our sales contracts, all our supplier contracts, all our staff contracts? Who's going to start chasing the debts in? So we've now ended up with a really, really long list of tasks.
Yeah.
That are all logically, very, very logically fallen out of our first question. And then the last stage, the fifth stage, is what you could either call control or measure. So now we get very, very specific. So for each task, we're going to go, okay, who's doing it?
Yeah.
What's the deadline for doing it? What's the quality expected? Is there a budget to it? Okay.
Is it about setting KPIs to kind of lead towards the end?
It's not even, you could call them KPIs, but they're just again, let's go through our example. We want to sell £1 million worth of sales. Okay. We're going to increase sales volume. We're going to increase profit per share. Yeah. We're going to recruit a new sales manager. We're going to change the pricing structure. We're going to research competitive pricing. Okay, we've said, just again, take the specific of recruiting a sales manager. We're going to write the roles and responsibilities. We're going to write a job ad. We're going to contact Indeed. We're going to contact, right, Louisa, you are going to write the job description, and I want it on my desk by Monday. Yeah. Okay, Matt, I want you to call 5 recruitment consultants. I want you to get some pricing, and when you get some structure from them, and I need that on my desk by Tuesday morning. Okay. I'll take responsibility for doing the interviews, and the interviews will be week commencing the 1st of February or something like that. Yeah. So we've now all got a series of tasks.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of this whole system, is actually what we're now doing is we're flipping the whole system upside down. And we're starting with this massive long list of tasks. We know who's going to do it. We know when they're going to do it. We know whose responsibility, who they're reporting it into, what the budget is, what the timeline is, etc., etc., etc. So that, and again, we'll follow the sales one because it's logical. So we've put together the job spec. We've done the interviews, etc., etc., etc. We've written the roles and responsibilities. The sales manager's been brought on board. He's doing his job brilliantly. He's increased sales volume. He's increased profit per sale. And he's done so well that by December the 31st, we've hit £1 million of sales.
Yeah.
And that's how the system works. Now, that might all sound very, very big picture, and it might sound very, very complicated, but it is really, really simple. Now, within that, you mentioned KPIs. Within that, we can have pointers or markers along the journey. So we'll take the £1 million worth of sales example again. If by the end of March we've not hit 250k, for argument's sake, and by middle of June we've not hit $500,000,
yeah,
we're off target here. What we're going to do in play? What we're going to do to put in its place? Now you might do this process again June the 30th. Okay, what does perfect look like in 6 months' time? Now, depending on how our new sales manager's doing, it might be sack the sales manager, we'll get a new one in. Or it might be, you know, he's bringing the sales in, but the supply chain's not working.
Yeah.
So actually, the strategy is, okay, review and improve the supply chain. So this is a sort of a moving target. And one of the simple examples of doing this is actually, if we said we changed it from a business example to a travel example. So where do you want to go? I want to go to London, is your mission. Your strategy is we're going to go by train.
Yeah.
Your tactics are, okay, well, what needs to happen to do that? Well, we're going to need to get a taxi from the house to the train station. We're going to need to book some train tickets. We're going to need to look at the train schedules. We're going to need to look at where we're staying in London when we get there. Somebody needs to book a hotel, blah, 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 blah. And you get to a list at the end where, okay, Matt, you're checking timetables, you're booking trains. Louisa, you're booking the taxis. I'll book the hotels in London, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the same thing happens again. So we start with a list at the bottom.
Yeah.
That if we do all these things, we will end up in London.
Yeah.
And again, the London example, I'm based in Leeds. So the London example would be if I'm sitting on the train and we go Doncaster, Newark, Peterborough, London, perfect. If I sit on the train, I look out the window and it says York, I think, hang on a minute, we're going in the wrong direction. I need to, you know, my review at that point is, okay, I need to get off the train. How do I get to London from here? And that's sort of how it all works. Now, some people often come back to me and say, okay, perfect is £1 million worth of sales. And they work through this process and go, actually, you know, for whatever reason, we ain't going to do it. It's not going to work. You know, we might need to spend too much on marketing. We haven't got a budget, whatever it might be. Okay, we'll do it again. So what does perfect look like in a year's time? 750K of sales. Okay, we go back through the process again. So it's once you get down to the minutiae, it's all quite logical.
Yeah.
Because because we've done this logically, if you do all the things that are on the control measure part of it, and all your assumptions are right and everything goes right, and you know, as we say, the sales manager does his sales and all that sort of thing, it should work.
Yeah.
And this all comes from, okay, and it fills into lots and lots of other things, and it fills into strategy and targeting and all that sort of thing. But also, it might be, actually, we end up getting 800K at the end of the year. Fantastic. If you haven't set that target in the first place, the business just toddles along and you keep selling and you keep selling. And I wrote a blog piece about this a while ago. I assume you've both watched Alice in Wonderland at some point, either with children or on your own or both.
When I was really young.
Watch Alice in Wonderland. Okay, watch Alice in Wonderland. Put the kids in front of it, and you can tell them this is business. This is business to me.
It's
the piece in Alice in Wonderland that Alice meets a character called the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm explaining this. You haven't watched Alice in Wonderland. The classic Disney version is the best. She meets the cat and she says this is very, very simple. She says to the cat, which is the right way? And the cat says, where do you want to go? And she says, I don't know where I'm going. And he says, well, it doesn't matter which way you go. And that's exactly so, you know, this whole strategy thing fits in with the first question. The key question is, what is it you're trying to do? If your aim is, oh, well, I'll just trundle along, fine, keep trundling along.
This is a strategy. I've got my microphone working, so I'm going to say something, Louisa. If anybody else has got questions, drop them in the comments. This is a strategy, from my point of view, that you could use on anything within your business, isn't it? You could use it on social media, you could use it on email marketing campaigns. It doesn't have to just be sales focused in that respect.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, for a bigger business, you can do this in different sections. So your sales team could do this, your marketing team could do this, this is company strategy, and it might deliver lots and lots of different ones. So you'll have lots and lots of different strategies, but it is all down to what is it you're trying to do, and then what are you going to put in place to make that happen.
It's almost like
go on, Louisa.
I was about to say, it's almost like by answering that question, you're giving yourself that purpose, that you know what your end goal is for whatever period of time is. So I often say to people something similar of, what is it you're actually wanting to achieve? Are we focusing on 12 months down the line, 6 months down the line? But if you actually say, and I did a video I think it was last week, if you actually set that deadline in your mind of what you're working towards, and then for me, I often work backwards because I'm very methodical and logical in my approach, and I love strategy and detail and all that aspect of things, but you start to think about, okay, well, what actually does need to happen to achieve that goal? And the examples you've shared, whether it's that you're looking for that £1 million business, or you're just looking to catch a train to London, if you've not thought about the necessary steps to get to that point, you're never going to get there.
And the travel one is great. Turn up at the station, turn up at King's Cross, gets to the end of the queue at the ticket office. He goes, "Where do you want to go?" "I don't know."
Yeah.
Well, get on whichever train you want.
Absolutely.
This strategy is something that we do in everyday life, isn't it? Let's face it. It's a very, you said there about travel. It's something we go through that process every day, sort of subconsciously. But when it comes to implementing it in business, for whatever reason, we are hung up on, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, I don't know what I want the end result to be.
Correct. And what this also, this opens up a can of worms of lots and lots of different stuff. But what it also does is it, on a day-to-day basis, makes you think, okay, does what I am going to do now contribute to what where I'm trying to get to? And also it feeds into, okay, I've got 10 different tasks to do today. Which one adds most value to what we're trying to do? And which one's actually, and as I say, it feeds off to lots of different things. It feeds into things like shiny new object syndrome. Oh, here's an exciting new project I'm desperate to get involved in. And you go, whoa. Does this contribute to what you're trying to do? And again, this goes back to what I was saying previously. I'm a terrible sufferer of shiny new object syndrome. And we had a laminated sheet of flip chart paper on the wall with something called a BHAG. Now, if you've never come across BHAGs, there's a great book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And a BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's that classic sort of shoot for the moon type thing.
Yeah.
But we had it on the wall in our meeting room. So every time I came up with a fantastic new idea for something absolutely amazing and brilliant that I'd either heard a podcast on, watched a video on, or read about in a magazine, my team had to say to me, does it contribute to that? Inevitably it didn't, but it was exciting because I wanted to do it. This got to the point, so much so that we had a consultant came in to help our business. We had various strategies we weren't sure which way to do, and my number two basically said, look, we'll get somebody else in and we'll see what delivers. And one of the things that fell out of that was he did an interview with my team, all individually, and then sort of reported back in a presentation and all that sort of thing, fed into lots and lots of different things. And one of the things that came back from my team was, will you tell Phil to just fucking leave us alone? Let us do our job. Bloody stupid idea somewhere else. Actually, and this is true, this is absolutely true story. What I had to do is I set up a separate company, employed a couple of new lads in, and they sort of ran with my shiny new object ideas, whereas my main business kept my fingers out of and stopped buggering around with them, and they carried on doing the business properly.
Which was most successful?
The first one that I wasn't involved in.
Because they presumably because they knew what they were doing, they had their tasks that you'd set for them. They knew what to do, and they were running with it.
Yeah, we had. I mean, this was sort of 15, 16 years into the journey. So the business was successful. It was running, and I was sort of. I'd got a number 2 in, and he was already saying to me, "Look, Phil, just leave us alone. You go on holiday. If anything goes wrong, I'll let you know." So that was me sort of trying to put spokes in, put the spoke in the wheel, or whatever the phrase is.
But that's so common though, isn't it? As I said, I've observed that so many times when I was working for this SME, that it was impossible for the founders to step out and to look at it from a different angle. And it was almost like, oh, this is the latest book. Oh, I'm going to gain ideas from this and everything else. And it was like, I manage the HR, and so I would sit down with the different employees and do something similar just to find out, once a quarter or once every 6 months, how the employees were feeling. And it was all like, I wish they would leave things alone and stop interfering.
Yep.
Because as soon as you start to interfere,
this is I think this is inherent, and there's a good and a bad side to this. This is inherent in business owners and entrepreneurs, because you wouldn't have launched the business in the first place if you hadn't gone, wow, this is brilliant.
Exactly.
And some of the stuff I brought in worked, and some of the stuff didn't. Sometimes you have to go through the pain of it, trying it and it not working. Other times you think actually that really does fit, and you bring it in and it does work. But like I say, it tends to be inherent in entrepreneurs, and again, this feeds into that. This does say, right, okay, if we've agreed and you can do this on a team basis. It doesn't need to be the owner that's doing this. If we've agreed as a team, this is where we're going, this is what we're aiming for, this is what we're doing, then the team have as much right, if not more right, to say, hang on a minute, Phil, that doesn't contribute in a positive way to what we've all agreed we're buying into and we're delivering.
Do you find that business owners, especially quite small business owners, or especially maybe in the first 12, 18 months, are sometimes a little bit nervous to take calculated risks?
Yes, it's again, it's part of the nature of the beast. Is you dive into this brand new idea, you think it's fantastic, you think it's brilliant, and either all your friends and family have told you it's a brilliant idea. You've got to let friends because they feel they should do and they're being supported. Or conversely, they've all said, giving up your job to do what?
Yeah.
Are you sure? And then you start running, and then at some point you go, oh fuck, this is harder than I thought it was. It's not like the books. This is proper hard work. And as you grow into your business, you a lot of the time it's trial and error, and it is a case of I came out of the other side of my business, and one of the first things somebody said to me was, oh, you should be a business mentor. And I said, who's going to listen to me? I was just sort of making it up as I was going along, and just, this feels like a good idea. We'll go in this direction, or we'll try this. I now realize that's sort of classic imposter syndrome. But you do, as a small business, you go, right, okay, I've weighed everything up. This feels like it might be a good idea. So, jump off the cliff and hope the parachute opens. And then that feeds into lots of different things, like, how do you check what's working and what's not working? You mentioned KPIs earlier. Sometimes it's just bottom line stuff. Sometimes it's long-term investment that you just think I've just got to keep plowing on because I know this is right.
Yeah.
One of the things, we're an online business, and if we've got time, I can tell you my sort of business story, but we were an online business. So we didn't have, we had very little money to spend on marketing. So we spent all our time and effort on SEO. Now, the thing with search engine optimization is it doesn't happen overnight. It's long-term, it's strategic. Google changes the rules constantly. So you have to be agile, you have to be nimble, you have to keep doing the right things. but something you do today, you tweak a website, you back in the day, you change the meta tags, or you create new content, or you think, oh, I'll do a keyword search. This is a term that everybody's searching for. I'll write some content on this, and then 3 months later, you don't appear on any searches, and you think, shit, that was a waste of time. But actually, in 6 months' time, hang on a minute, we're number 3 on page 1. How did that happen? So yes, there's lots and lots of things that as a business you think, should I be doing this or shouldn't I be doing this? And you either take advice. There's tons of stuff online now. Some of it's good advice, some of it's bad advice. And as a business owner, that's what you are there for. Nobody made a lot of money without risk.
Yeah.
Inherent in running your own business is risk. If you don't want risk, go and get a job. Running a business isn't a job, or it is, but you know what I mean.
It's a lifestyle choice.
One of the things that happened when we sold the business, I think an underlying, and it was short-lived, but one of the things was, the team thinking, hang on a minute, he's walked away with how much? That's a bit unfair. And the answer to that is, well, it was my balls that were on the block, when I didn't have a holiday and didn't have a salary and all that sort of stuff. You've come in every day. Sometimes you've worked well, sometimes you haven't worked well. And at the end of the month, I've given you some money. That's not very risky. I'm the one who took the risk. And running a business is risky. I don't know what's the stats. 7 out of 10 businesses don't make 3 years. That's high risk.
Yeah.
I think that's increasing this year, isn't it?
Well, I think what's happened this year is you've got sort of starting and stopping. You've got lots of people obviously losing jobs and going, fuck it, I'll do it myself now.
It looks so easy.
You've got loads and loads of startups. Obviously, you've got loads of businesses going pop as well. In some instances, really not down to them. In other instances, unfortunately, it's a bit Darwinian. If you were a shit business before COVID, it's going to be a shit business when you come out of COVID, unless you do something about it.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of businesses getting caught out now, isn't there, and being found out for not having strategies or tactics in place. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you just mentioned before about going back to your business story a little bit. So you've also were saying to me about the fact you're an angel investor as well. Do you want to kind of just go over a bit more of your journey and what is an angel investor? Because I'm sure lots of people actually have never heard the term. I have, but lots of people won't know.
Okay, so let's go sort of, I'll jump backwards and forwards a bit here. In answer to the question, what is an angel investor? An angel investor is simply somebody who puts investment into a startup or a new business in exchange for a share of the business. Simply as example is Dragon's Den. Now, Dragon's Den, if anybody's listening, if anybody's watching, Dragon's Den is a TV show, it is entertainment. Real world does not work like that. But the simple concept of, I will invest a certain amount of money in your business and you will give me a percentage of the share of that business, that's what an angel investor does. So let's rewind back to 2000. So in 2000, in the year 2000, I was recruited by William Hill to launch their first ever online casino. While I was there, we came across the concept of online bingo, which was very, very small at that point, and actually wasn't in the UK, was only in the US, and even so was very small. I did a presentation to the board of directors. This is how we can get to the bingo market. This is the opportunity, etc., etc. For whatever reasons, they said, thanks, no thanks, we don't want to do that. End of 2000, I left William Hill and started working as a consultant in the online gaming space because not a lot of people had any experience at that time. So I worked with, did some work with Littlewood, did some work with Gala, did some work with Victor Chandler's. And at one point, was talking to somebody who said they wanted to get into the online gaming space because they thought it was an exciting new sector, which it was. And I said, you want to get into online bingo? That's the next big thing, you know. And I remember the day later thinking, hang on a minute, you just advised him to do that. Why didn't you listen to yourself? Okay. So what I did was I dusted down this presentation I'd done to William Hill, changed it, tweaked it, shuffled it around, and took it out to try and get investment for it, Dragon's Den style. So I took it out to a number of investment groups. I was looking for £1 million investment. I would have been the first online pay-to-play online bingo site in the UK by, didn't know it at the time, by 4 years. It was 4 years ahead. However, this was just at the time the dot-com bubble was bursting. So this was obviously online only. As I say, it was only in the US. So obviously the first question was, well, if it's going to be so brilliant, why aren't Gala and Mecca doing it? Which is a logical question. And the answer is, as often with these things, they're far too big of a big business to be active enough to do this yet. And also it was legally a bit grey in the US whether this was legal or not. So I was pitching for £1 million for a business the big boys weren't interested in at the middle of the dot-com bubble, for something that was at best legally grey. Unsurprisingly, I didn't get my backing. However, what I'd done is I'd built a very, very basic website which listed all of the American online bingo sites. There were only about half a dozen of them at that time. And what I'd done is I'd put a very, very basic pop-up window on the front of it to get some basic demographics, sort of age, sex, how much they spend, how regularly they play, that sort of thing. So when I was doing my pitch for investment, I sounded and looked like I knew what I was talking about. I was an expert in the market. What happened was a number of these American sites found my site and said, can we advertise on your website? Okay, fair enough. You send me some money, I'll work out how to put a 468 by 60 banner on a page. And that became the business.
Wow.
And it started, it was just myself and my wife at home, 2 young kids, sort of, she was a teacher at the time, so she was working nights, sort of doing mass email campaigns through Outlook Express with a baby on a lap. Yeah, the whole thing. Eventually we took on a freelancer, then we took on a couple of freelancers. And then 5 years in, our main freelancer came to us and said, I'm getting a proper job. So we were at this stick or twist point in the story. And the local area had like a business support scheme going on. You got some free business support. So this was the first time we'd shown anybody this as a business. So at the time, this was just, we're doing okay with, I think we bought a holiday one year. Like, it's going really well. And we sort of very reluctantly showed this business to a professional business advisor. It was like, what does this look like? And he said, shit, you've got good business here, go for it. And we were talking about taking on staff. And I remember this very, very clearly. One of the things we were like, oh shit, taking on staff, that's really expensive. Taking an office, that's really expensive. And he said to me, he said, don't forget that actually when you're taking a member of, this is very cold, but it's not meant to be heartless. When you're taking a member of staff, you're only really in for a month's worth of salary. Because at any point you can give them a month's notice and off they go. So actually you might give somebody a salary of, do the maths, 24 grand.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the risk that you're putting out is £2,000 because that's their notice period in the first 2 years. So he made it very clear to us that actually taking staff on wasn't as scary as it sounded. So we took on, we took an office and we recruited 2 members of staff because we thought it might be a bit weird with myself and my wife and 1 member of staff there. We just thought that might be a bit like a bit strange. And it went from there. Now there's sort of, an 13 years from there. So 18 years into the journey, we sold the business to a PLC. There's obviously loads of ups and downs, the middle of that. But that was that's how it worked.
That's amazing.
We became the TripAdvisor for online bingo. So the BHAG we had on the wall was to be the biggest supplier of online bingo players in the world. We did that.
That's so awesome. And as you say, you know, it's kind of like that risk that you took. You weren't sure, but you pursued it, and you had that faith to kind of go with it and to take those risks that needed to be taken. Well,
along the way, and I was thinking about this morning actually, and somebody said this to me a while ago, and I'd never really thought about this. What if there's a number of sliding doors moments, some very, very clear sliding doors moments. And somebody said this to me, I'd never considered it before. What if William Hill had said, yeah, that's a good idea, let's go.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that before. But then also, in that time between getting rejected for the investment and it picking up, it picked up very, very slowly. I was still looking for a proper job. And I got a proper job. I got offered a proper job as an account director for a digital agency. Nice salary, car, office, the whole thing. Really good digital agency in Leeds. And I went in to see them on the Friday before the Monday that was due to start. I said, I'm really sorry, I can't take the job. This thing might happen.
Yeah.
I remember coming out of that meeting and I rang my mum. I said, you know that job I told you about? Well, I've just told them I don't want it. And it was like, oh, yes, darling. And that was one of those sliding doors moments. Again, at that point, I could have not done it. And a little bit further down the line as well, I still wasn't sure about it. And we're still doing a bit of consultancy work at the time. I was doing some training as well for another company. And I applied for this really sexy job. It was like for one of the big sports betting companies, like at the time, one of the biggest ones. I won't name them. As European marketing director or something highfalutin like that. And I sort of applied for it because I looked at the salary and thought, well, I'll have some of that. And thought, he won't take me on. And I got through round one, I got through round two, and we got to the last three. There were three people up for the job. And I'm not sure whether it was, I thought the business was going to be really successful or whether I shit myself. But I thought, I can't. I turned that job down as well. But again, that was one of those sliding doors moments. Now, yes, it would have been a very nice job and a lovely salary and all that sort of thing. But 15 years hence from there, I wouldn't have done what I'd done. So loads of sliding doors moments.
It shows again, doesn't it? Like risk. Sometimes you've got to take that risk and make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
And you've almost kind of got to go through those thought processes of, okay, do I go and look for a job just for that security? But then when it comes to it, do you actually want that? And it almost like forces your hand to really think about it. But until you actually start to move forward with it, I guess you don't, it's still all up in the air.
Yeah. And I think, and this is often, nowadays people would call it a pivot. It wasn't a pivot, it was an and I mentioned imposter syndrome. It was going, and then people were sending us money and all this sort of things. And again, I'll tell you a funny story. One of our first clients was sent us our payments by check. So they sent us dollar checks. So we had to take these checks into the bank to transfer them into our account. And they had their brand on a watermark on their checks. So we went in, and obviously these checks were coming on a monthly basis. So after a while, small branch, and after a while, you start seeing the same person.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, "Oh, have you won on bingo again?"
I bet that she was thinking, I wanted to get involved in that.
And again, and very early in the journey, the money keeps coming in, and you think, as I mentioned, the imposter syndrome. These checks are going to stop coming. out of this. And for a long time, I thought we were just riding the wave and being a bit lucky, and you know, we'll ride this as long as it goes. And then again, a year after we took on staff, and we had 3 staff by this stage, the US changed the laws about online gambling and pulled the plug on the whole industry. So we lost 85% of our business on a Friday night.
Wow.
Because we knew the UK was going to happen. It was inevitable it's going to happen. And we built, so our site was only US facing, but we built a UK facing site, and we were almost like, we were waiting for news to come. So we had a website waiting for the content and waiting for it to come. And it happened on a Friday night, and they'd been umming and ahhing about this law, and then suddenly it just happened. And my wife and I spent the weekend deciding which of the 3 members of staff we should sack, because the market had disappeared. And what we ended up doing was that we did the maths, and in the end we said, you know what, for the money we're going to save on getting rid of a member of staff, we may as well just go for it. We had enough money in the bank to ride it. And that guy, third guy in, who we get rid of, the third guy in was with us the day we sold.
Wow. It's amazing.
So these are huge sliding doors moments that you know, at the time, you just have to, you weigh it up. And I always say to people, you know, look at all the facts, look at everything, go with your gut. Because if you don't go with your gut, what happens is you go, okay, my gut says I need to go this way, and my logic says I need to go this way, and helpful friends and family and advisors, so this is the sensible way to do it. What happens is you go the sensible way, 6 months down the line, it doesn't work, and you just think, oh shit, I should have followed my gut.
Yeah.
So you may as well follow your gut, because it's just going to bug you all the way until you do it anyway. And that sort of gut choice of what to do comes with experience, comes with knowledge, comes with trial and error. And trial and error isn't necessarily, oh, we tried that, it didn't work. Because we tried that, it didn't work, then we'll try it again. Landscape's completely different. You know, you try something and you've got sort of version 1 of your website and it didn't work. You've now got version 4 of your website. Let's try that again. You know, it might work better because we've got version 4 of the website now.
100%. Just taking those knockbacks and setbacks and turning them into an opportunity rather than letting them dictate the way that you run your business, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, I've just spent 15 minutes not answering your question about angel investing.
Okay.
I'll give you the end of the answer to that one then. So an angel investor, as I say, an angel investor will put money into a business for a share of that business. The idea being, if I give you, I don't know, let's do some simple maths. If I give you 50 grand for 50% of the company, if you sell the company in 5 years' time for £1 million, I get £500,000. Conversely, if I give you 50 grand for the business, for half the business, and it goes pop in 6 months' time, geez.
Yeah.
So it's an investment in the business. So when you're making an investment into a business as an angel investor, you've got to look at business, you've got to look at the business opportunity, you've got to look at the market, you've got to look very closely at the person who's doing it. You know, do I think this person, you know, it's all right doing a slide deck presentation and going, you know, we're going to do this and this and this. And you look at the person and go, well, you've got no experience in this market. You've never done anything like this before. You know, you're clueless. Why would I invest in you? So I'm a member of a number of groups. So again, an example, you know, between 10 to 20 of us sitting around a table, and 3 or 4 companies will come in, do their presentation. We can then ask them questions. And often it will be a syndicate of investors. So it might be this company needs 100 grand or wants 100 grand. You go, okay, well, 5 of us will put 20 grand in each.
Yeah.
And you know, you can change the numbers however you want. But what's really good about doing it as a group is I might look at something and go, wow, that's fantastic. And you know, person walks out the room, and then some bloke from the other side of the room goes, I'm in that sector, that's old tech, that doesn't work. Or conversely, I look at something and go, that's shit. And then the lady next to me goes, "This is amazing. I've never seen anything like this before in my life." I go, "Right, I'll back it." So it works lots and lots of different ways. And some companies, we never took a penny of investment, so we never took any investment whatsoever. Some companies need investment to get to the next stage. So it's, I don't know, pick something like, I don't know, somebody who's sitting at home during lockdown and he's knitting scarves and starts selling them on Etsy. Fantastic. But if she wants to make that a business, she's going to need some money to buy a loom, and buy loads of stock, and build a website and Shopify on it and all that sort of stuff. So yes, that person could knit loads and loads of scarves and eventually get enough money to buy her loom. Actually, if she said, "You give me $5,000 and I'll give you 10% of the business," and she's got a loom tomorrow.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that big step, other times it's staff. So you might say, right, I don't know why I picked knitting as an example, but anyway. So she's got 10 brilliant examples of knitting patterns for scarves. So she might go, okay, I can only make 2 scarves a day, but if I employ 5 people, we can make 10 scarves a day. But actually, I've got to pay those people, so I might need money to pay the etc. etc. So that's where that's very, very simple examples. A lot of this stuff is tech, and they need developers, or they need big machinery, or they just need a marketing campaign. So there's lots of reasons why people would want angel investment. But there are lots of people out there who have, and usually it's people in the same scenario of me that have made their money, but actually want to give something back.
Yeah.
So it's not only money that you're investing. It's, the real value is actually in the advice. Yeah. It's actually having somebody sitting next to you, maybe once a week, once a month, going, "We've done that. That's not really a good idea. We did that in the past, but have you tried this?" And try, "Oh, I never thought about that." Which again comes full circle to where we started, which is me working as a business sounding board. So it's that person sitting next to you. It's that piece of advice. It's that sounding board, and it's that being able to have somebody who can add value by saying, "Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Or about that?" But also somebody we can bounce ideas off and either get validation or just double check things, or even just, "I'm going to do this. Before I press the button, can I just sense check it across to you? And this is a good idea, isn't it?" Yeah, fine. Yeah. Press the button.
No, and I think, as you say, it's such an invaluable service, I guess, that you offer, because there are so many people that need that kind of validation or that sense check or whatever that might be, or for you to kind of say, actually, you might want to A/B check that, just to kind of see, okay, try this way, then try that way, and then kind of see what works, because you only know what you know. At the end of the day, you can read as many books, watch as many TEDx talks as you want, but unless you're actually having a conversation with someone about your specific issue or your specific idea, you're not really going to get the answer from a book or a TEDx talk.
Yeah, and sometimes it is something as simple as, "Can you just sense check this for me?"
Yeah.
And we've talked. I've mentioned a few times sort of friends and family, and obviously they're often they're the easiest sort of first port of call for this, but they're often the worst first port of call because
100%.
Because they're biased. They're biased anyway. Yes, love. Yes, that's a lovely idea. Right? Sorry, being really, really sexy. Yes, Matt. Yes, Matt. Lovely idea.
Yes, Matt. Yeah.
They're not target audience.
Yeah.
And I before I did this, I worked in an ad agency, and one of my biggest clients, and this will show your age whether you know the answer, you know this or not. My biggest client was Lada Cars. No,
I don't know cars. No,
I know Ladas.
Shittest cars in the world. They're from Russia. They're really crap. But we sold the client sold tons of them. But we'd often have the client would say, "Oh, I don't like that ad." And this is a guy who's on, he's a marketing director. He's on, I don't know what he's on, 50, 60, 70 grand. He drives a Volvo or a BMW or something like that. And he says he doesn't like the ad. Well, you're not target audience.
Yeah.
And often it goes back to sort of asking parents and family and friends, they're not target audience. They often, I'm sure if many of my friends still don't know what I did. My mum doesn't know what I did. Oh, you did something in bingo. That's as or and I now get, tech, don't you? Because you had a website. No, I bloody don't. I've got a man who knows tech. I run the business. So that feedback and that sounding board and that input from other people, you've got to be careful who you listen to. And I see this on LinkedIn and Facebook a lot. The poll. Which logo do you prefer, or which picture of me looks the best? Yeah, but you're not target audience. So actually, we might all look at Matt and go, Matt, we love that, whatever colour background it is. Yeah.
I don't know myself, to be honest.
Oh, right, okay. I'm going to really upset you now. I might say, Matt, that's really horrible and looks professional and, blah, 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 blah. Now, if a parent or a friend says that, they're just saying it because they either like it or they don't like it. Actually, I might be looking at it and go, okay, actually, does this put across the proper professional? It does, but does this put across the proper professional view of Matt?
I don't mind if you say no. It's a temporary issue.
Okay, but you get my point. You've got to ask the right people the right questions to make the answer have any value.
Absolutely, and there's so much about the honesty and giving it from that perspective, because I think whenever I work with people, I always kind of say, be warned, I will be honest with you, but I'll do it from a constructive perspective to kind of say, this is the reason why I'm saying that. And the amount of times someone will go, oh yeah, I had a call with someone yesterday and they read something out to me and I was like, no, because the word that are sticking in my mind is saying this, and she's like, oh, I hadn't considered it from that perspective. And I was like, well, that's exactly why, because it's about giving those perspectives, and then they can go off and make their own decisions. But having that different perspective, or by playing devil's advocate or whatever you need to do, the outcome can be totally different from what they initially thought. But Phil, I'm conscious of time, so if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Okay, so I tend to live on LinkedIn, so just linkedin.com/in/Phil Fraser. You can find my website, which is philfraser.co.uk. Now, do not go to philfraser.com, because philfraser.com is a medieval reenactment costume company, and that isn't me.
Can you not buy them out?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to buy a suit of armour soon, just to whatever. So you can find me at philfraser.co.uk. I've also got a YouTube channel which has got some. Hopefully, we'll put this on as well.
Yeah.
Which is a bit pointless me saying that, because if you've seen it on YouTube, it's there anyway. Again, on YouTube, you have to search Phil Fraser Business Sounding Board, because if you just put Phil Fraser in, you come across a Thai bloke doing a daily video blog, which obviously isn't me. And I'm on Twitter as well at Phil, I think it's Phil_Fraser, but I don't use that a lot. Anyway, if you've seen me on LinkedIn and you're on my website and you've been to YouTube, my phone number's on there as well. So there's no way you can't find me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
I hope it's been of use.
No, it's just
I've been making notes. I'm planning strategy for start of financial year in April. So there you go.
Fantastic. Perfect. Tell me how you get on.
I will do.
No, thank you so much. And I will stop the broadcast now.